Hi, ESS class. This is Ms. Bearden. Today I'm going to give you some notes on topic 1.2, which is all about systems and models. So important part for environmental systems and society. So we're going to talk about what is a system, different types of systems, and what is a model. So you should have something to take notes on. If you don't have something, pause this quick and go grab some paper and a pen or pencil. All right. So environmental systems, and you'll see through these notes I have some words in red. Those are probably important things you want to make notes of in addition to anything else you find important on the slides. So environmental systems and societies, the systems part is a big deal here. So systems and models are going to help us study complex environmental issues or complex parts of the environment or different societal issues. So things that maybe we can't necessarily study out in their element, we can make models of it and study it that way. So that use of systems and models is really simplifying interactions, and it can be applied at a range of scales. So my mouse over here we go. And here are some examples. So this would be a really small scale, a terrarium. This would be a closed system, but we could study interactions and something like this. This would be a larger scale, okay, just an ecosystem. This would be a lake you could study. And then here we have kind of a closed system again, but this is a lot larger. It's almost like a little biodome. So know that models can be very small or very large. So here's the actual IB definition of a system. I've got up here. So an organized collection of interdependent parts that perform a function, and they're connected through the transfer of energy or matter. And that part's pretty important here. So examples I'm giving you are human body system, right? We're made of a bunch of systems. So you've got, a skeletal system. You've got blood moving through here. You have an organ system. All these things are interconnected and they're transferring energy through our body. So a bicycle could be considered a system. It has all these interconnected parts, and that energy transfer is coming from you as you're pedaling the bike into the wheels to make you move. And this here is just an example of an ecosystem. So there's all these parts of the ecosystem, the living and non-living aspects, the energy coming in from sunlight being transformed either into heat energy or into matter. The plants are doing photosynthesis. So all those things are linked together and they all affect each other. So we'll do some drawing of models, and there's a way that we do this. So on the left here, we have all of these things that systems have. So all systems have storages of energy or matter. And on the right here, I'm going to show how if you were going to draw a system drawing, you could use these images here. So if you want to draw something stored, say in an ecosystem, you would use a box. If you want to show flows of energy into or out of the system, we'll use arrows to show the direction of that flow of energy. Inputs are also with arrows, so inputs and outputs. If there's energy from sunlight coming in, outputs for an ecosystem. Maybe there's oxygen given off from a plant during photosynthesis. So all these inputs and outputs and flows, we're going to use arrows. Boundaries of a system. Some systems have boundaries. Like a closed system has a very defined boundary. So you'd use a solid line for a closed system. And I'll show you that in a second. You could also use, I don't have it here, but you could use a dotted line for an open system. That boundary is not real definitive. I'll explain that to you in a minute. And then there are different processes happening. We can just write those words out. So in an ecosystem, if you were drawing a system model, like a forest, you might have plants or animals doing respiration. You might be showing, it's raining, so precipitation. These things you would just write out the words. And here are just some examples of those drawings or diagrams of a system, what that might look like. The one on the left is pretty simple. So this is showing an open system, and that dotted line is showing you that it's an open system. You've got inputs and outputs. They're not explaining what they are, but that would be a really simple model. On the right here, this would be a model of an ecosystem where you have the boxes showing storage of energy or matter. So plants storing energy or matter. They have the process here. So photosynthesis. This process here could be maybe eating or consumption. So they've got that here, but animals maybe eating plants. You've got heat energy transferred, solar energy transferred into plants so they could do photosynthesis. So it's really just showing you all these processes in the direction that matter or energy is moving. Okay, so matter, or we can just call it material in an ecosystem, and energy are going to flow through ecosystems as either what we call a transfer or a transformation. So a transfer is literally a change in location. If you think about, like, I'm going to transfer a book from my hands to yours, I'm just moving it from one location to the other. Okay, so examples of transfers in an ecosystem might be movement of material through an organism. So, if a carnivore, so a meat-eating animal is eating another animal, it's going to transfer that matter. Eventually it will transform, but we'll get to that. So movement of materials in a non-living process. So think of water flowing down a stream or a river. That would be a transfer of material. So water being transferred from one location to the other. And then movement of energy can also be a transfer. So ocean currents are really good at transferring heat energy. And actually later this year, we'll learn about all the different currents in the ocean, how that affects land mass temperatures. But that heat in ocean currents is actually just a transfer of energy. Okay, so transformation is going to be a change in chemical nature, the state, or change in energy. So if you transform something, you're turning it into something else. Okay, so you can turn matter into a different type of matter. So when plants do photosynthesis, they're taking glucose, that simple sugar, and they're converting it into starch, which is a complex sugar. So it's really just a bunch of glucose put together. Okay, so one matter converted into another kind of matter. Energy to energy. So light energy from the sun is converted to heat energy by radiating off surfaces. So, and we feel that if we're outside on a sunny day, right, you get really warm, but light energy converting to heat. If you walk on like dark pavement in the summer. Okay, matter to energy. So we can take fossil fuels. If you put gas in your car and you're burning fossil fuels and you're creating energy. So matter to energy, and then energy to matter. So you could do that in reverse. A good example is photosynthesis. So when plants do photosynthesis, take in that energy from sunlight and they use it to convert so we convert sugars into starch. And then down here, what do I have here? There we go. Okay, so matter and energy flow through systems. They can be stored, right? So they're stored for periods of time in animals, in plants. And I'm pretty positive this is not a real picture, but this is an example. So the snake will eat the bird, and for a time, that bird will be stored as chemical energy in the snake. Right, there's 3 types of systems. And also, if you guys need to pause the video and take a break anytime, feel free. I think we're halfway done. So types of systems, an open system. So an open system exchanges matter and energy with the surroundings. So my example, I took this Disney photo and I added some rain and fire and things, and I'm going to show you all these different ways that matter and energy are exchanged. So an open system doesn't have a defined boundary. So think of like a forest. Okay, there's not this designated line where that ecosystem ends, right? It's not like the animals get to a certain point and they can't go any further. So, like example, if that deer eats grass from another forest or another meadow, but comes into this forest and has to relieve himself, that matter is now part of this ecosystem. So it's coming from another place, moving to here. Plants do photosynthesis, so that light energy, okay, is being exchanged with surroundings, turned into chemical energy. If there was a fire, that topsoil could be eroded. It could be washed away into surrounding ecosystems. Water moves through open systems, so evaporation, transpiration from plants. Water is moving through clouds into ecosystems with rain. Minerals and soils can move through waterways, through groundwater, in and out of this particular ecosystem. And then heat's always being exchanged across boundaries. So that's just an example. So an open system, matter and energy are constantly being exchanged with the surroundings. And then nitrogen in the air is fixed by soil bacteria. So you don't have to write down all the examples, by the way. This is a lot of examples. Just know what an open system is and an example, okay, like a forest ecosystem. Right, a closed system exchanges energy but not matter with its environment. So this is incredibly rare in nature. You're not going to see it. This would be more an experiment somebody might set up to replicate some part of the environment. So a closed system, like that first picture I showed you, one of the first slides, that little terrarium where the enclosed glass where there's plants and soil in there. So energy is coming in, so you could have light energy moving through that glass, being converted to heat, but there's no matter, right? You're not adding or taking away water, you're not adding or taking away plants. Once it's closed, it's closed. Okay, so you could say that our whole planet is a closed system because the water is moving around, transforming and transferring around the globe, but it's not necessarily leaving our ecosystem. So we do have that sunlight, that chemical energy turning to heat energy. Okay, so we're getting energy is being exchanged, heat's being radiated back out into the atmosphere, but we're not, unless a meteor hits the Earth, we're not adding or taking away matter. Okay. And then the last type of system you need to know is an isolated system. So this does not exchange matter or energy with the environment. I can't think of one example where this exists naturally. Okay, so isolated systems don't really exist. Maybe the entire universe is an isolated system, but we have no idea. The closest approximation, if you're trying to wrap your head around what this would be, if you think of like a really nice thermos with a hot liquid in it, like you got coffee or tea or something, that's like an approximation of an isolated system. But we all know that if you left it sitting there for a really long time, eventually that liquid would cool down. But if it never did, that would be an isolated system. So no matter or energy being exchanged with the environment. And then here's just a little grid. Here's a little grid that I made. If you want to have a little cheat sheet of this, you can copy this down. So if matter or energy is exchanged for those three types of systems, and then an example of those systems. Okay, so you could put a terrarium on here too if you wanted to. All right, what is a model? Not this kind of model, even though she's great. So a model is really just a simplified version of reality. So we use models because we want to understand how a system works. we want to predict how it's going to change. So think of like if you watch the weather, right? Meteorologists use lots of different types of weather models to predict the weather or predict how it might change. And they're approximations, so they're just approximate. Here's my mouse here. There we go. So you have to approximate data with their models. So we do lose some accuracy. So if you think about weather prediction, they're not always 100%, which is frustrating if it's not supposed to rain, then it does. But we are losing some accuracy. But generally, if they say it's going to rain on Friday, usually within a few day window, you will have that rain. Okay, so we're just making predictions and understanding how systems work. So you could have physical models. You could actually build a model of something. So we have like DNA models. So things that are really, really small in science that are hard to see. We can make models so they're larger and we can manipulate them, and those are easier to understand how that system works. If you guys have made like models of different atoms or chemicals in chemistry, maybe conceptual models. I think I want to mathematical models. So I guess these just another way to use models just to make predictions. Okay, and I do have examples of some types of models to show you. So this is like a physical model of a cell, as I've probably seen something like this in biology class. So cells are very, very tiny. We can't see all these parts of a cell. So this would be a plant cell. But if we make a model, we can look at, okay, well, this is the nucleus, and we have chloroplasts, and this would be a Golgi apparatus. So we have all these different parts we can get to understand how that system works. This is a climate change model. So we can make predictions, okay, about what's going to happen over time using a model like this. We'll actually look at these in more detail when we get to our climate change unit. This is just I have a weather model. A lot of the models meteorologists use, so predicting weather, this would be for snowfall. Here's the drawing somebody made on a computer system, right? So it looks like a little kid was trying to understand how a computer system is set up. And they drew a model to explain that to help better understand. And then here is a model another student made of a plant. Okay, so parts of a plant. That's what we use models for. So they're just representations of an idea, and they're used to explain or describe different phenomena or circumstances. And I think that's all I have. So if you need to go back and look at parts of these, make sure you take some notes on this. And if you have any questions about any of this stuff, please let me know. Thanks so much.